Hey guys, it's the Gundam Boy, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 4 horsemen of guard dogs. So, get your attention span ready because it's going to be a long video. Let's take a look at the general functions of every guard dog.
Something you should keep in mind for the guard dog is that you can swap sides by changing the angle of your camera.
And since guard dog is always offset to one side, you can always use it to peek corners and see if enemies are around. But do keep in mind, every guard dog can bite back, and it might injure you or just light you ablaze. So keep in mind how you're moving because the guard dog tends to drift around. You should also keep in mind that guard dogs tend to aim for smaller targets and will often ignore bigger units in the field until the rest are gone. So let's take a look at the first dog in the kennel, the guard dog. Looking at its stats, we can see the damage does 60 damage with a durable damage of 15. It is medium pen, meaning it can face off with a wider variety of enemies, unlike light pen. It also has 45 bullets in the mag with a RPM of 660. And since a Liberator Penetrator is just strapped to the bottom of this flying drone, you will have to have that dog come back for reloads. But let's jump into how it fares against the enemies. Looking on the bot front, it offers a good amount of covering fire against trooper swarms, as the guard dog can kill them in 2 to 1 shots, jumping between targets rapidly. Berserkers are easily countered if the guard dog can land more shots on the head, but if it was to only go for body shots, it would take 10 shots to the body to kill. Luckily, the guard dog typically aims for the head, but you should still be ready for the dog to miss. And because of the similar stature and same weak point positioning, the Devastator can be dropped with a consistent shot to the face, which seems to be favored by the special guard dog. The only enemy it really struggles against is with heavy devs. Depending on the approaching angle, it can be an ammo waster as the shots will go to the center of the shield. But a high stagger weapon can be a way to counter that block and open it up for some guard dog against enemies like a scout strider. Since it has a giant weak point in the middle of its cock, the guard dog will always bite there. The main concern with using the guard dog on the bot front is the amount of ammo you will chew through, because a large portion of the greater chaff have some durability rating on their armor, meaning you'll take more bullets to kill them. But let's move over to the bug front, where there's less armored enemies and more of them to send flying. Let's just say the guard dog sends the lesser chaff bugs running. Since the only way bugs can hurt you is to come in there and physically touch you, it means they walk into their own kill box, as guard dog mows through all the lesser chaff. And if you're on the sea with those little jumping bastards, you'll find that guard dog snipes them out of the air before they even get the chance. Means you can go on your lovely stroll and not worry about these little bastards biting your ankles. When you have to turn and run and reload, guard dog will have you covered. No amount of light chaff spam will stop you and your little dog buddy. It's even a good counter against brood commander spam, since the dog will already pick these targets out while you're focusing the big guy. But in a real combat scenario, you should keep in mind that the guard dog typically aims for the smallest enemy, meaning it will avoid shooting the brood commander, which can be kinda stressful in situations where you really need him gone. And there's nothing more satisfying than bringing the guard dog when you're on that bile spearer spawn, because let me just say, having a headshot monster on your side is a perfect team match. Moving over to the Illuminate front, this puppy provides some extra fire support for the endless voteless swarms. Having no durable damage resistance for all 3 types of voteless from light to medium to heavy means that most voteless will be killed around in 1 or 2 bullets, because the guard dog likes to aim for the head, and overseers are not safe either, as the head of the overseer armor doesn't protect them from the spraying menace of the guard dog. But if it's going up against the Q-tip overseer, you should keep in mind that he can block some of the attacks. Every overseer has the same kind of health and armor, but it will be a little bit more difficult to kill things like the elevated overseer since they kind of weave between that effective range. Going up against the flesh mob with the guard dog, I would recommend you assist it. There is just not enough ammo and not enough time to kill this guy before he starts wailing on you. And guys, I'm gonna be real. I tried to make a script because I think this is gonna be a longer video in the end, but I fucking hate this script. I can't do it anymore. I'm throwing it out the window! But I guess you could say I'm gonna be raw dogging the script from here. Moving on over to the guard dog rover, looking at the stats, it has 200 laser damage versus its durable, it's 40, it's light pen, and it has fire damage of 100. Now while the laser damage only does light pen, the fire is just like any other fire. But like a happy wiener dog, it starts to fire all over the place, and it will not stop firing until the thing it wants is dead. So keep in mind, it is pointing at an enemy that it wants gone. So if you're walking past your teammates, do keep in mind that it might flash them.
Sweet liberty,
Moving onto the bot front, where I find that it performs the weakest, because there's only a few enemies that I actually see it killing effectively. Troopers being the very obvious answer, and berserkers because they're lightly armored. And this is due to the fact that guard dog rover doesn't aim at the head, but it rather aims for the waist, which would kill it in 3 seconds. Which doesn't sound too bad, but the fact that the guard dog doesn't always consistently aim, it could extend its own time to kill. But that's a big problem with the heavy dev, as it will still aim for the waist section like it's a normal devastator, wasting your time. And scout striders are completely ignored, as they are often supported by lesser chaff units, meaning the guard dog will completely ignore them. And it did make an attempt to shoot the Hulk in the back, but it doesn't really mean anything when the Hulk turns around. While the guard dog rover does do some pretty good damage on paper, it doesn't really mean anything when it only points at the cock of certain enemy units. Somebody told this dog to aim for the other head because it's right there in front of him. I think if guard dog rover aimed for the head more often, I think this would make it a little bit better. But on the bug front, they have giant massive heads where the laser has no problem hitting it. But its time to kill is dependent on how long the laser's pointed at them, so there are some enemies that might break through. And while they don't always focus on the enemy that's closest to you, if you're not supporting your guard dog or even just covering your own ass, you can end up getting spanked. I personally like to fire in the same direction as my guard dog rover to amplify the damage together, because now you can decrease the time it takes to kill certain enemies like alpha brood commanders. Or it even allows you to face off 2 brood commanders and finish off the last one to help the guard dog out. However, it is completely countered by the existence of the bile spear, as it will try to aim for the little neck weak point, which is why it bursts it into flames. And since their main method of attack is horking on you, it means they're always facing their armored plates towards the guard dog, meaning it is pretty damn ineffective. But to my surprise, I found out that against the Hive Guard, it will actually aim for the little gaps between the armor and shoot the little nubs. So if it has a steady shot, it should be able to take it down. While the rover may perform pretty poorly by itself, as long as you're supporting it, it can do pretty good damage and supporting fire for you. Which is exactly how it explained it on the Illuminate front, as up against the Voteless, it requires constant poking and pointing to kill most of the targets. So supporting fire is appreciated as you can take down enemies way faster together. Because when I tested the rover guard dog by itself, it took around 6 seconds to kill an Overseer. Whereas that time to kill is much shorter when you and the guard dog's working together. However, it does have a bad habit of aiming for the balls of the Overseers and just killing him that way. It's like he's staring at it because like a smooth... I can't finish this joke, I'm just gonna skip it. But you're probably wondering, how does that fire damage and the direct laser damage fare against the flesh mob? Against the flesh mob, I found that in 20 seconds, it would be able to kill it with only the laser damage. Kinda feels like I'm microwaving food right now. You know, just staring point blank at the microwave, even though my mom told me not to. Yeah, it genuinely takes this long, by the way. This is it. This is unedited raw. Like, god damn it. But you should always keep in mind, despite it being able to take down these higher level units, it always focuses the lesser chaff. Taking a look at the Stinker Dog, we can see a variety of stats, and some of the biggest things you should know is that it has heavy penetration, but it does no damage, which means it can only deal with the squishiest of foes. But this dog doesn't need a leash, as it can fly into the enemy hordes and spray them personally. And when I said it can only take down the squishiest of foes, I mean like things like troopers, as they can be sprayed just once and fall apart. Do keep in mind, I did have a brief bug where the gas didn't do anything to automaton troopers, but it was as easy as grabbing a new pack and it started working again. However, I do think that most situations where you're going up against the automatons, you probably pick off all the troopers before the guard dog can spray them. This works perfectly though as a defensive tool, as you can hold off certain areas as the enemies get blasted by gas. It won't kill a Hulk anytime soon, but it will definitely hold them still long enough for you to do something about it. It can even disrupt the aim patterns of automaton troopers, making them fire in random directions, allowing you to suppress them with gas, and you can finish them off with whatever you got. Not for finishing off bigger enemies like heavy devs, but definitely good enough to distract them long enough to backshot them. And did I ever tell you guys that I play Helldivers so much that I often get kinda sleepy and start falling asleep mid-game? Oh, well, look at that, back to work. Considering on the bot front, there's a very limited amount of enemies that can actually die, I was a little worried about how it actually performs in killing enemies. But I'm glad to know that one spray is enough to kill a hunter, as these enemies typically get to you first, and I fucking hate hunters! You should also know that guard dog gas can actually hit those flying bastards when they try to swoop down on you, which means they sentence themselves to stinky death. If you're curious about how it fares against the warrior and the hive guard, it actually takes 2 sprays worth of this gas to take them down. One of the biggest features I personally like on the bug front is that it can even stop chargers and confuse them, which allows you to retaliate with either your quasar cannon, your red stratagem, or your butter knife. And since the introduction of guard dog gas, it has become a deadly pairing with things like flamethrowers, as the confusion effect of gas makes the enemies wade in the fire. Moving on to the Illuminate front, using the guard dog gas on the Voteless had a interaction that's very reminiscent of that one time I went to 7-Eleven. Just like the hunters, all it takes is one spray for the Voteless to die from the gas. If you didn't know, there's actually 3 different types of Voteless with different health pools. We have the light, the medium, and the heavy. And from what I tested, they all die the same. As long as they're marked for death with the green, there's only a matter of seconds before they'll just drop to the ground. And against the broken wall phaser himself, the flesh mob is deadly affected by gas, making it often swing around in random directions, completely confusing him. And even when the effect runs out, it takes 1 second to spray him back up to confusion. However, there is an enemy right now that I don't think is currently affected by gas. That's right, everybody's favorite Q-tip wielder is not affected by the gas. In fact, he's chasing me just fine, and then he hits these 2 cars and killed himself. At least we know it takes 2 cars to kill an Overseer. Just to make sure it's not hosting syndrome, I joined a random lobby and found out that the Overseer still doesn't care. Which I'm pretty sure this is a bug. I don't think they were intended to be immune to gas, because when I used gas in the past, I would watch Overseers swing in random directions.
No, it's fine. It's only the most annoying enemy type in the game that I can't counter anymore with my gas because he can fly so fast!
Driving in my car. I hate you. And finally, the last guard dog that will get you kicked from your team for friendly fire. That's right, we're talking about the K9. So, looking at its stats, you can see it has a base damage of 250 and its durable damage is 45. It does have a stun status, but it is small. The damage is actually pretty similar to the arc thrower, except for the durable damage. So, any enemies that lack that durability will be basically getting hit by arc thrower too. Cause on the bot front, whenever I shot this guy with the guard dog, it felt like I was hitting him with the typical arc weapon. You should be able to one-shot a devastator to the head, but with the unpredictable pattern of arc weapons, that is kind of a gamble. However, it can blast blocks open from the heavy devs, making it easier to shoot their face. Or it can stop enemies from attacking you, giving you a brief moment to attack. While it can do damage to the heavy dev, with how slow it takes to charge up, it's not worth the time. With a combination of its durable damage and its slow fire rate, I'd rather just shoot him in the face. Like, come on, I'm not gonna wait this long on the objective for the Hulk to die, I'm gonna put him down myself. And it's common knowledge that you can kill a Scout Strider by shooting the rockets. However, the guard dog will actually set it off all completely, making it one of the most effective ways to get rid of the Scout Strider. Even when I wasn't expecting it to chain to the Scout Strider, it still detonated and killed a good portion of his teammates. On the bot front, I didn't have a lot to say about it. It is pretty and I think it has to do with its fire rate, or it could be with its damage. Because if you had to wait for 6 shots, you would be around 25 minutes later, because each shot is at least 5 seconds. And I got better things to do than wait for this guy to die. And unlike the automatons on the bug front, since their heads aren't so tucked in, it makes it easier for the arc thrower to actually headshot them and kill them in one blast. Warriors will be blasted in one shot, hunters get sent to the back rooms. I take it it's your first time. Hive guards only have 250 health to their head, which means it can one-shot them. This is solely dependent on the arc angle, and if you're facing off against the bile spears, I've counted, and it takes at least 3 shots to kill them. I'm sure it could do it in less, but it always aims a little higher up the head, hitting the main segment of the body. Otherwise, it would kill it in at least 2 shots. But at least in the test that I was able to do, it took 3 shots consistently. And going up against the Turkey Commander, it should take around at least 3 shots to blow his head right off. And it is capable of attacking things like the Charger, but you should keep in mind its durable damage is way lower than the Arc Thrower. And don't rely on it for helping you stun the Charger, because it likes to target the lesser chaff before it targets the bigger units, which means you can get stomped.
My end is now crushed!
Now, going up against the Volus, I have to say the K9 was built for this, even if it is a little trigger happy, because by itself it racked up at least 16 kills before I got bored. Oh, I mean 17. But when you pair it with other arc weapons, let me just say, you became a Thunder God, or a Thunder Lord. Against the Overseer's shield, though, you might want to keep in mind that the arc doesn't seem to phase him. It's almost like he's taunting. You let the K9 fight the Overseer by itself, it actually took at least 4 shots for him to take him down. And against something like the Flesh Mob, it completely lobotomizes them. Something about the guard dog K9 just shuts off this guy's brain. Since the guard dog was consistently hitting the midsection of his body and not breaking any heads, it didn't force him into a freak out frenzy, which allowed me just to kind of stare at him while the K9 tickled him. But yeah, that was all the guard dogs. But I will have to say, I wish there were some things that were adjusted. I've said various times throughout the video that guard dog doesn't tend to target the biggest guy. In fact, they'll look around and shoot the smallest guy or completely ignore certain enemies as they're hyper-fixated on someone else. And it can be a little frustrating because there are some enemies that you probably would like some more assistance with than like a Voteless. Or maybe you just want to focus certain enemies to do more damage. Hopefully we can get something similar to the G50 grenade, where you ping certain targets and it will focus that enemy instead, as I think this opens up some combat flexibility for situations where you really need someone to be targeted. But it did shoot the Scout Strider here for a second, but it got focused on the little trooper behind them after. Looking at the guard dog K9, hopefully you can get like either more damage or a heavier stun, but I definitely wouldn't say give it a faster fire rate. I don't think anybody wants that. I think they should also adjust guard dog's rover's aiming, as it should aim a little bit higher up for the head, as that is a big obvious weak point, but it doesn't seem to notice it. Obviously preferring the aim at the nuts and bolts for a sec. But that is the end of my video. What do you guys think of the guard dog? Otherwise, I will see you guys later. Before you leave, can I riz you up? Please, 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 please! Guard dog, the dog breath, guard dog, dog breath, guard dog breath performs better as a fucking dick name.